Good evening, dear viewers. Tonight, I invite you to step into the shadows of the ordinary. You see, we often regard the stillness of stuffed toys as comforting, their unblinking eyes and sewn-on smiles a testament to their harmless nature. But what if I told you that beneath those stitched seams lies a world teeming with mischief, curiosity, and chaos? Allow me to introduce Cha-Cha, a seemingly innocent stuffed monkey with a penchant for nightly escapades. His boy Cabe sleeps blissfully unaware of the miniature storm that whirls through his home each night. But as with all adventures, there's a price to pay for curiosity. Will Cha-Cha's mischief remain a harmless secret, or will the consequences of his actions lead to unforeseen calamity? Be warned, my friends, what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart, or at least, not for those who think their stuffed animals stay put. And now, let us proceed with Cha-Cha's nightly escapades. Moonlight Awakening. The clock struck 9, and a warm hush settled over the little house. Cabe lay in his bed, tucked under his rocket ship blanket, his soft snores a rhythm Cha-Cha had come to know well. Cha-Cha waited. He always waited. As the moonlight spilled through the curtains, the little monkey stirred, not in the limp, lifeless way one might expect from a stuffed toy, but with a stretch and a yawn. His button eyes twinkled, and his stitched mouth curved into a mischievous grin. "It's showtime," Cha-Cha whispered to himself. He wiggled free from Cabe's embrace, careful not to wake him, and slid down the bedpost like a firefighter on a pole. His soft brown body landed silently on the carpet. The world of Cabe's bedroom was alive with possibilities. His bookshelf towered like a jungle canopy, and the desk chair spun like a vine-swinging launch pad. Cha-Cha leapt onto the chair, giving it a hard push. It spun wildly, and he clung tight, laughing in delight. Tonight, the house felt particularly full of promise. The faint glow of the nightlight in the hallway beckoned him, daring him to explore. Cha-Cha swung from the doorknob and landed on the hardwood floor with a barely audible thud. He scampered toward the kitchen, his mind already racing with ideas. The refrigerator was his Everest. With a nimble leap, he climbed onto the counter, using a dish rag as a makeshift rope. He pried the fridge door open, revealing its treasure trove of leftovers. "Oh, the cheesecake!" he exclaimed, spotting a small slice on the middle shelf. Balancing it precariously on his head, Cha-Cha made his way back down, leaving tiny smudges of cream on the handles. He perched on the counter, savoring the forbidden snack until he heard a creak. His ears, stitched though they were, pricked up. Was it Cabe? Or perhaps the cat, Odin, who had an uncanny knack for ruining his fun? Cha-Cha darted into the pantry, cheesecake in tow, and peered out cautiously. Odin sauntered into the kitchen, his yellow eye gleaming. "Oh, not tonight, furball," Cha-Cha whispered. He grabbed a nearby wooden spoon, wielding it like a sword. Odin sniffed the air, his nose twitching. He padded closer to the counter, and Cha-Cha's heart raced. With a sudden leap, Cha-Cha tossed a stray breadcrumb to distract him. Then he darted out the pantry door and climbed atop the refrigerator. Odin yowled in frustration, pawing at the counter where the cheesecake remnants lay. Cha-Cha chuckled, victorious. The night wore on, and Cha-Cha's adventures continued. He tiptoed across the curtain rod in the living room, created a masterpiece of spilled flour on the kitchen floor, and even managed to build a fort out of cereal boxes. But as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Cha-Cha knew it was time to return. He climbed back into Cabe's bed, nestling into his usual spot under the boy's arm. Cabe stirred slightly, hugging Cha-Cha closer in his sleep. "Good night, little buddy," Cha-Cha murmured, closing his button eyes just as the sun broke through the curtains. And so began another day where Cabe would never suspect the nocturnal escapades of his mischievous stuffed monkey. The Great Lamp Disaster. The next night, Cha-Cha waited for Cabe's rhythmic breathing to signal that he was asleep. As soon as it did, Cha-Cha stretched, yawned, and grinned. He had big plans tonight. Cha-Cha swung down from the bedpost and surveyed the room. The bookshelf jungle was calling his name. He climbed it expertly, hopping from one shelf to the next, and paused at the top to admire the view. Cabe's room looked so small from up here, like a world made just for him. That's when Cha-Cha noticed the lampshade. It was tilted just enough to look like the perfect swing. He leapt for it without hesitation. The lampshade spun under his weight, sending Cha-Cha swinging wildly. Whee! He cried, flinging his arms out like a trapeze artist. But the lamp wasn't built for adventures. With a loud crash, the entire thing toppled, and the bulb shattered as it hit the floor. Cha-Cha froze. He glanced at Cabe, who stirred slightly but didn't wake. Cha-Cha sighed in relief, then turned his attention to the mess. Uh-oh, he muttered. Odin padded into the room, his yellow eye gleaming with amusement. He circled the broken lamp, his tail flicking. Don't look at me like that, Cha-Cha said. I'll clean it up. He ran to Cabe's craft supplies and grabbed some glue and tape. With more enthusiasm than skill, he pieced the lamp back together. It was lopsided, and the bulb was beyond saving. But Cha-Cha admired his handiwork anyway. Good as new, he declared, patting the base of the lamp proudly. Odin rolled his eye, unimpressed. Cha-Cha decided it was best to leave the room before Cabe woke up and noticed the lamp. He scrambled down the hall, heading for the living room. A midnight expedition. The living room was a treasure trove of opportunities for chaos. Cha-Cha eyed the Christmas tree still standing in the corner, its twinkling lights casting shadows on the walls. Ooh, shiny, he whispered, scampering toward it. He climbed the tree like a seasoned explorer, stopping to examine each ornament. There were fragile glass baubles, tiny wooden soldiers, and even a candy cane or two. Cha-Cha grabbed a candy cane, unwrapped it, and began munching as he swung from branch to branch. He reached for the star at the top, but the tree wobbled precariously. Careful, Cha-Cha, he told himself. You don't want another disaster. But his hand slipped and he tumbled down, landing in a pile of presents with a muffled thud. One of the boxes had popped open, revealing a shiny toy race car. Cha-Cha's eyes lit up. Well, don't mind if I do. He set the car on the floor, climbed in, and pressed the button. The motor roared to life, and the car zoomed forward, sending Cha-Cha speeding across the living room. Faster, he shouted, steering the car around furniture and dodging Odin, who hissed in annoyance. The car skidded to a stop near the front door, and Cha-Cha tumbled out, dizzy but laughing. That was amazing, he said, clutching his sides. But then he froze. Outside the door, he heard a sound, a faint scratching noise like something trying to get in. Cha-Cha's heart raced. Was it a raccoon? A burglar? A ghost? He tiptoed to the window and peeked out. There, in the moonlight, was a curious little raccoon pawing at the door. Cha-Cha grinned. Hey, buddy, you looking for some fun? The raccoon tilted its head, then scurried off into the bushes. Cha-Cha considered following, but decided against it. The house was adventure enough for one night. As dawn approached, Cha-Cha knew it was time to clean up. He returned the race car to its box, tried to straighten the tree, and hid the candy cane wrapper under the couch. When he climbed back into Cabe's bed, the boy stirred, his arm wrapping around Cha-Cha. Love you, Cha-Cha, Cabe murmured in his sleep. Cha-Cha smiled. Love you too, kid. He closed his button eyes just as the first rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains, ready to rest until the next adventure. The Attic Conundrum. The moonlight painted the house in silver streaks as Cha-Cha stretched and swung down from the bedpost. Tonight, he felt bolder than ever. The house was his playground, and he was ready for a new challenge. That's when he noticed the faint outline of the attic door in the hallway ceiling. He'd seen it before, but had never dared explore it. Tonight's the night, Cha-Cha whispered to himself. He scurried to the hallway, grabbing a broom from the closet. Balancing it on his shoulder, he jabbed the attic door's pull string. It took several tries, but finally the door creaked open, revealing a folding ladder that descended like a portal to another world. Cha-Cha climbed eagerly, his soft hands gripping each rung until he reached to the top. The attic was dim and dusty, filled with forgotten treasures, old trunks, picture frames, and stacks of books. Cobwebs draped the corners like curtains, and the air smelled of time itself. Ooh, this is fantastic, Cha-Cha said, rubbing his hands together. He rummaged through a nearby trunk, finding a pirate hat, a wooden sword, and a treasure map drawn in crayon. He donned the hat, brandished the sword, and studied the map. A hidden treasure? Captain Cha-Cha's on the case. He followed the map's crude directions, hopping over a broken chair, shark-infested waters, and crawling under an old table, the Cave of Doom. Finally, he reached a large, dusty chest in the corner. With great effort, he pried it open. Inside, he found a trove of trinkets, shiny marbles, a kaleidoscope, and a tin full of buttons. But what caught his eye was a tiny wind-up music box shaped like a carousel. Cha-Cha turned the crank, and a hauntingly beautiful melody filled the attic. The carousel spun, its miniature horses dancing in circles. "That's the treasure," he whispered, mesmerized. But his victory was short-lived. A loud thump from the corner made him jump, nearly dropping the music box. He turned to see one glowing eye staring at him. "Odin?" The cat slinked out of the shadows, his tail flicking in annoyance. He'd clearly followed him, and now he looked ready to cause trouble. "Stay back, feline! Captain Cha-Cha doesn't negotiate with stowaways!" Odin leapt toward him, his paws outstretched. Cha-Cha dodged, but the movement tipped the chest over, spilling its contents. Marbles rolled across the floor like tiny cannonballs. Odin slipped, his claws scraping for traction, and Cha-Cha seized the moment. He grabbed the music box, scrambled over the spilled treasures, and made a dash for the ladder. But Odin wasn't giving up. He regained his footing and chased him, his claws clicking on the wooden floor. Cha-Cha slid down the ladder just in time, the music box tucked under his arm. He slammed the attic door shut, leaning against it as he caught his breath. "Woof! That was close," he said, clutching the music box. He glanced at the little carousel and smiled. Tonight's adventure had been worth the risk. He placed the music box on Cabe's nightstand as a keepsake, then climbed back into the boy's arms. As the first rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains, Cha-Cha closed his button eyes, ready to rest. The attic could wait for another night. The Kitchen Caper. After the attic adventure, Cha-Cha felt invincible. As Cabe snored peacefully the next night, Cha-Cha slipped out of his bed, his mind teeming with ideas for mischief. His gaze drifted toward the kitchen. "I bet there's some fun in the fridge," he amused, rubbing his soft hands together. He made his way down the hallway, careful to avoid the creaky floorboards, and swung onto the countertop, using the cabinet handles as climbing holds. The refrigerator gleamed in the moonlight like a treasure chest waiting to be opened. Cha-Cha pulled the handle, and the door swung open, bathing him in a cool glow. He surveyed the shelves, his eyes lighting up when he spotted a tub of whipped cream. "Oh, this is going to be fun!" With some effort, he hauled the tub out and pried off the lid. The creamy, fluffy goodness inside looked too good to resist. He scooped a handful and smeared it across his face like war paint. "Cha-Cha the Brave is ready for battle!" He grabbed a handful of grapes and began juggling them, slipping occasionally but laughing at his own clumsiness. Then he noticed a bottle of chocolate syrup on the top shelf. Perfect for an epic dessert! Cha-Cha climbed higher, balancing precariously on a carton of eggs. He reached for the syrup, but the carton wobbled. Before he could stabilize it, the eggs tipped over, crashing to the floor in a gooey mess. "Oops," Cha-Cha muttered, glancing over his shoulder. Odin appeared in the doorway, his sharp eye narrowing at the mess. "Not you again," Cha-Cha said, grabbing a cucumber from the fridge. "Back, foul beast!" He rolled the cucumber toward Odin, and he leapt back, startled, giving Cha-Cha enough time to hop down from the fridge. But the chaos didn't end there. Cha-Cha's whipped cream-covered foot slipped on the egg yolk, sending him sliding across the floor. He collided with the trash can, tipping it over and spilling its contents. Banana peels, old wrappers, and a forgotten slice of pizza littered the floor. Cha-Cha groaned, picking himself up and dusting off his fur. Well, that could have gone better. Odin meowed triumphantly, sitting atop the counter like a king surveying his domain. The Backyard Adventure. Cha-Cha wasn't one to give up. After cleaning up as best he could, which, to be honest, wasn't very good, he decided to take his adventures outside. The back door was locked, but Cha-Cha had an idea. He climbed onto the windowsill, unlatched the lock, and pushed the window open. The cool night air greeted him as he slipped outside. The backyard was a jungle of possibilities. The swing set stood tall like a towering tree, and the sandbox glimmered under the moonlight like a desert oasis. Cha-Cha grabbed a stick and drew a map in the sandbox, pretending he was an explorer charting new lands. He swung from the swing set, flipped over the monkey bars, and even slid down the slide head first. But as he played, a rustling sound from the bushes caught his attention. Cha-Cha froze, clutching his stick like a weapon. Out of the shadows came the raccoon he'd seen before, its curious eyes shining in the dark. "Hey, it's you again," Cha-Cha said, relaxing. The raccoon sniffed the air and scurried closer, clearly interested in the leftover whipped cream on Cha-Cha's face. "Okay, fine. You can have it, Cha-Cha said, offering a grape from his stash. The raccoon took it eagerly, munching away. Cha-Cha laughed. You're not so bad, are you? The two spent the rest of the night exploring the backyard together. Cha-Cha found a small ball and rolled it to the raccoon, who pushed it back with its nose. They played an impromptu game of soccer until the sky began to lighten. Realizing it was almost morning, Cha-Cha bid his new friend goodbye and hurried back inside. He climbed back into Cape's bed just as the boy stirred, wrapping his arms around the monkey. Night, Cha-Cha, Cape mumbled. Night, buddy, Cha-Cha whispered, smiling. Dear viewer, we've reached the end of this tale of nocturnal mischief and stuffed rebellion. Cha-Cha, our mischievous monkey, has lived to swing another night. Barely. He's repaired lamps, dodged cats, and outsmarted his raccoon nemesis, yet one wonders how long he can keep his adventures secret from his beloved Cabe. Will the boy one day discover his stuffed companion's nightly antics? Or will Cha-Cha's escapades escalate, leading to consequences he cannot undo? Such questions are best left unanswered. After all, life's mysteries are what keeps us enthralled, are they not? So, as you turn off the lights tonight, glance at your stuffed animals. Do they sit just as you left them? Or perhaps, just perhaps, they have their own stories to tell.